In the vast, silent expanses of the Canadian Arctic, the geopolitical reality of the 21st century is shifting beneath our feet, and for the Royal Canadian Air Force, RCAF, the status quo is no longer a viable strategy. For decades, Canada has relied on a defensive doctrine anchored in alliances and aging hardware, but as the ice melts and global competitors cast their eyes toward the high north, the question of sovereignty has never been more pressing. The Future Fighter Capability Project, FFCP, represents a generational crossroads for our nation. This is not merely a procurement contract to replace the venerable CF-18 Hornets, but a definitive statement about who we are as a nation and how we intend to protect our home soil against increasingly sophisticated threats. Among the contenders, one platform has quietly emerged not just as a piece of machinery, but as a strategic partner designed specifically for the harsh, unforgiving realities of our geography, the Saab Gripen E. To understand why this aircraft is generating such intense discussion among defense experts and patriotic Canadians alike, we must look beyond the glossy brochures and delve into the hard operational data, listening to the voices of those who have flown the machines and analyzing the industrial logic that Saab, a company that has operated in Canada for nearly 30 years, safeguarding our Halifax-class frigates and supporting our army, is bringing to the table. For the Canadian taxpayer aged 40 to 65, the memory of the Cold War is not a distant historical footnote, but a lived reality, and we understand that our primary defensive obligation is the protection of the longest coastline in the world. The geography of Canada is unique, demanding equipment that does not just survive the cold, but thrives in it, which is where the Swedish heritage of the Gripen E becomes its most potent asset. Unlike competitors designed for global force projection from massive, comfortable airbases in temperate zones, the Gripen was born from a doctrine of survival and dispersed operations, a necessity shared by Sweden and Canada alike. In a high-intensity conflict, main airbases will be the first targets, rendering a fighter jet that requires a 10,000-foot pristine runway and a massive support crew effectively useless. The Gripen E turns this logic on its head by utilizing a dispersed concept that allows it to operate from road bases, literally highway strips of just 2,600 feet or approximately 800 meters. This capability is revolutionary for the defense of the Canadian North, imagining a scenario where traditional airfields are compromised or iced over, allowing the Gripen E to land on a remote stretch of the Trans-Canada Highway or a small northern airstrip, refuel, rearm, and launch again. This is not theoretical, but a capability baked into the airframe's DNA, with landing gear and braking systems designed to be pounded onto hard, icy surfaces. Johan Linder, a veteran fighter pilot with a unique perspective, having logged 15 years flying the Gripen A, B, C, D, and 3 years in the cockpit of the F/A-18C/D Hornet, notes that the difference is night and day. His comparison provides a rare, unfiltered look into the generational leap the Gripen E represents, noting that the Gripen is a relatively light aircraft with an impressive braking system that utilizes the canards to create aerodynamic downforce upon landing. This allows for what he calls carefree maneuvering on the ground, a stark contrast to the heavier, more demanding handling of older platforms where the risk of engine failure from foreign object damage or sliding on icy runways is a constant stressor. In modern aerial warfare, the speed of the aircraft is secondary to the speed of the turnaround, a metric where the Gripen E embarrasses the legacy platforms currently in our inventory. Linder points out that from his experience with Hornet operations, a standard turnaround, refueling, safety checks, rearming often takes up to 70 minutes, an eternity in a combat scenario where waves of bombers or cruise missiles are inbound. Contrast this with the Gripen, where a full turnaround, including hot refueling and weapons loading, takes less than 10 minutes, a tactical revolution that means a single Gripen E can effectively do the work of 2 or 3 legacy fighters simply because it spends more time in the air protecting Canadian families and less time sitting in a hangar. Furthermore, this feat is accomplished with a minimal logistical footprint, as the aircraft is designed to be serviced by a small team of conscripts in the Swedish forest, which in Canada translates to being serviceable by a small team of technicians in a remote forward operating base in Nunavut or the Northwest Territories. It requires only 4 support personnel to turn the aircraft around for a full combat mission. To truly appreciate the Gripen E, one must understand the shift in pilot cognition, moving from the heavy lifter mentality of the F-18 Hornet to the digital predator mindset of the Gripen. Linder describes the Hornet as a robust, flexible aircraft, but one that requires significant physical and mental exertion to manage, particularly in a dogfight where high angle of attack AOA maneuvers cause severe energy loss, requiring the pilot to actively push the nose down to regain speed. The Gripen E, however, is an intelligent fighter designed to maintain energy, allowing pilots to pull 9G maneuvers while retaining the kinetic energy needed to fight the next opponent. Meaning a pilot used to wrestling the Hornet can simply rest their legs in a Gripen. The flight control system is so precise and automated that the pilot never has to worry about departing controlled flight, giving them a tactical edge that Linder describes as carefree handling. But the true generational gap lies in the human-machine interface. HMI, like in the Hornet, the pilot is a manager of systems, constantly flipping switches and monitoring gauges, as evidenced by Linder's anecdote that resetting the radar on a Hornet required a combination of 6 different hands-on throttle and stick OTAS actions, whereas on the Gripen, the same action takes a single click. This reduction in workload is not just about convenience, but survival, as the Gripen E automates the mundane with systems that are on by default, contrasting with the Hornet's manual activation requirements and a thick emergency checklist of nearly 100 pages versus the Gripen's slim pocket guide of about 10 pages. This simplicity signifies a profound sophistication that frees the pilot's mind to focus on tactics and decision-making, making them a much better mission completer. This dominance extends beyond the physical realm into what can be described as the electronic shield, dominating the invisible war, a critical domain where Saab is arguably the world leader. The Gripen E does not rely solely on stealth shaping, which can be compromised by new radar technologies, but instead uses a digital shield that provides true 360-degree spherical coverage, a game-changer for pilot survivability. Jonas Gronberg, the head of fighter electronic warfare marketing at Saab, explains that the system detects threats from all directions, radar locks, missile launches, laser designators, and automatically prioritizes them, allowing the aircraft to jam enemy radars, launch decoys, and use the electronic attack jammer pod to blind air defense systems. Robin Nordlander, a Gripen E test pilot, emphasizes that the EW system has higher resolution and sensitivity than anything he has seen before, creating a bubble of situational awareness that allows the pilot to see further and clearer. Moreover, the Gripen E brings a unique anti-stealth capability to the table with the Skyward GIRST infrared search and track sensor, which looks for heat rather than radar reflections. In a world where potential adversaries like Russia and China are fielding stealth fighters like the Su-57 and J-20, the passive nature of the IRST means the Gripen can track an enemy target, be it an aircraft, a naval vessel, or a ground vehicle from well beyond visual range without emitting any signals itself, remaining electronically silent and restoring the element of surprise to Canadian pilots. However, the hardware is only half the equation, and the true genius of the platform lies in a philosophy best described as smart design, the App Store model of defense, which is perhaps the most compelling argument for the Gripen E for a fiscally conscious Canadian public. For decades, upgrading a fighter jet was a nightmare of engineering and bureaucracy because the flight safety software and the tactical software were intertwined, meaning that changing a single line of code in the radar system required recertifying the entire aircraft to ensure it wouldn't crash, a process that took years and cost millions. Saab has solved this problem by separating the systems, distinguishing the flight-critical software that keeps the plane in the air from the tactical mission systems that control radar, weapons, and communications. Patrick Palmer, Saab Canada's executive vice president, aptly compares it to a smartphone where you can update the applications without rewriting the operating system, allowing the Gripen E to receive software updates to its tactical systems in days or weeks, not years. This ensures that the RCAF will not be buying a static piece of hardware, but acquiring a platform that evolves. As new threats emerge, such as the S-400 missile system or new hypersonic weapons, Canadian engineers can write new code, upload it to the fleet, and our pilots will have the countermeasure immediately. This approach, known as continuous capability insertion, guarantees that the Gripen E will remain at the cutting edge of technology for its entire lifespan, well into the 2060 seconds, breaking the cycle of obsolescence that has plagued Canadian procurement for generations. There has been a persistent murmur from detractors suggesting that a European jet cannot integrate with our American allies in NORAD, but the facts dismantle this argument completely, as the Gripen E is built for interoperability, speaking the same language as NATO with Link 16, secure voice comms, rover link, digital CAS, and have-quick radios. The proof of this capability was demonstrated in May 2020 and again in March 2021 when Swedish Gripens integrated seamlessly with US Air Force B-1B Lancers during bomber task force missions, escorting American strategic bombers and coordinating tactics in the high north. General Jeffrey Herigin, commander of US Air Forces in Europe-Africa, has publicly praised the Swedish and Finnish partners as critical to operations in the Arctic, specifically highlighting the value of exercising with them to refine tactics, techniques, and procedures that facilitate acting together as a team. Furthermore, NATO members like Hungary and the Czech Republic already fly the Gripen as their frontline fighter, and the aircraft is fully capable of carrying the weapons Canada currently owns, such as the AIM-120 AMRAAM and the AIM-9 Sidewinder, while also serving as the launch customer for the Meteor missile, a ramjet-powered air-to-air weapon that offers a no-escape zone vastly larger than traditional missiles. Additionally, the Gripen adds a new dimension with the RBS-15 Gungnir anti-ship missile, which boasts a range of over 300 kilometers and is designed for the complex littoral environments of the Baltic environments that bear a striking resemblance to Canada's own jagged coastlines. As China continues to expand its navy, having a fighter jet capable of dominating the maritime surface warfare domain is not a luxury but a necessity for a nation with 3 oceans, and the Gripen E provides this capability out of the box, ensuring that Canada can project power from the coast to the blue water while maintaining full compatibility with our most important allies. This unique combination of Arctic-proven durability, digital superiority, and seamless interoperability makes the operational case for the Gripen E not just strong, but overwhelming, setting the stage for an equally compelling industrial proposition that promises to reshape the Canadian economy. While the operational superiority of the Gripen E in the High North provides a compelling military argument, the decision facing the Canadian government extends far beyond the cockpit. It is fundamentally an economic calculation that will define the trajectory of our national aerospace industry for the next half-century. In a post-pandemic world where economic recovery is paramount, the Future Fighter Capability Project must be viewed not just as an expenditure of tax dollars, but as a massive investment in Canadian innovation, labor, and industrial sovereignty. It is within this economic sphere that the Saab proposal shifts from being merely an attractive option to becoming the only logical path forward for a nation determined to maintain its industrial independence. Unlike other contenders who view Canada primarily as a customer, a purchaser of black box technology to be serviced abroad, Saab has approached this competition with a philosophy of partnership, offering a comprehensive package that promises to revitalize the Canadian aerospace sector from coast to coast. To understand the magnitude of this offer, one must look at the specific corporate alliances that have been forged under the banner of the Gripen for Canada team, a coalition that reads like a who's who of Canadian aviation excellence, including IMP, Aerospace and Defense, CAE, Peraton Canada, and GE Aviation. This is not a superficial branding exercise, but a binding industrial commitment to build a made-in-Canada solution. The centerpiece of this proposal is the decision to conduct the final assembly, integration, and testing of the aircraft domestically, a task that will be spearheaded by IMP Aerospace and Defense at their facility in Halifax. For the Atlantic region, which has long been the backbone of our naval maintenance, this represents a historic infusion of high-tech manufacturing capability. Clark Bain, the Senior Vice President of Strategic Development at IMP, has highlighted the transformative nature of this partnership, noting that the infrastructure required, such as specialized soundproof bays for engine testing, will be built right here on Canadian soil. But the implications go deeper than construction. The production line itself will be a leap forward in manufacturing technology, operating entirely from a 3D model. As Bain points out, this digital-first approach to assembly is not just about building a plane, it is about retraining the Canadian workforce in the most advanced aerospace techniques available globally, skills that will inevitably spill over into other programs and sectors, increasing the overall efficiency and competitiveness of Canadian industry. The vision articulated by the Gripen for Canada team is one of deep roots and long-term sustainability. Jonas Helm, Saab's Senior Vice President and Head of Aeronautics, has been unequivocal in his commitment, stating that Saab is dedicated to securing long-term relationships that create a significant number of sustainable, highly skilled jobs for Canadians within both the domestic and international supply chains. This promise of sustainable employment is critical for the voting demographic aged 40 to 65, who have seen too many boom and bust cycles in the defense sector. We are not talking about temporary contracts that evaporate once the last jet is delivered. We are talking about a decades-long commitment to sustainment, maintenance, and upgrading. Johansson, Saab's CEO, has pledged that if the Gripen is selected, it will be built, supported, sustained, upgraded, and enhanced in Canada by Canadians, a strategy that will generate thousands of stable jobs that will support families and communities for generations. This model ensures that the economic benefits of the FFCP are not exported to factories in the United States or Europe, but are retained within our borders, circulating through our economy and providing a return on investment that goes well beyond national security. The geography of this economic package is as strategic as the aircraft itself, designed to benefit key industrial hubs across the country. While Halifax anchors the production, the proposal includes the establishment of 2 new aerospace centers in the Greater Montreal area, the traditional heart of Canada's aviation industry. These facilities will not be mere satellite offices, but engines of innovation. Saab plans to build a Gripen Center managed by Canadians, which will serve as the home for the Canadian Fighter Mission System. This specific detail is perhaps the most significant component of the entire proposal regarding national sovereignty. In the world of modern air combat, the mission system, the software and electronics that control the radar, electronic warfare, and weapons, is the brain of the aircraft. By locating the development and management of this system in Montreal, Saab is effectively handing Canada the keys to the car. Mikael Johansson explains that this center will conduct domestic research and development, allowing Canada to perform its own technological upgrades to respond to evolving threats without having to wait for a foreign government to approve or release a software patch. This facility, which Johansson describes as the future jewel in the crown of Gripen in Canada, will coordinate the fleet's management, repairs, and enhancements, ensuring that the intellectual property resides here. This stands in stark contrast to the alternative, where Canada would be reliant on a black box system, unable to modify or even fully understand the proprietary technology protecting our pilots. The involvement of CAE, a global leader in simulation and training based in Montreal, further solidifies this ecosystem, ensuring that the training and mission solutions are world-class and indigenous. Meanwhile, Peraton Canada will manage the maintenance, repair, and overhaul of avionics and test equipment, and GE Aviation will provide and maintain the F-414 engines in Canada, completing a circle of domestic support that ensures every critical component of the aircraft is cared for by Canadian hands. Skeptics often question the reality of technology transfer promises in defense contracts, but Saab has a track record that demands respect, most notably with their recent delivery of the Gripen E to Brazil. In that program, the transfer of intellectual property was not just a clause in a contract, but a reality on the ground, with Brazilian industry deeply involved in the production and development of their fleet. This proves that Saab's model is not theoretical. It is a proven industrial template that works. For Canada, a G7 nation with a proud history of aerospace achievement, from the Avro Aero to the Canadarm, the opportunity to regain this level of autonomy is invaluable. Patrick Palmer, Saab Canada's VP, argues that this solution offers the best value for the Canadian taxpayer regarding life cycle costs, and he is right. By controlling the maintenance and upgrade cycles domestically, Canada avoids the trap of being price gouged by foreign contractors for spare parts or software updates 20 years down the line. The smart design of the Gripen, with its decoupled avionics, further drives down these costs, ensuring that the fleet remains affordable to fly and easy to fix, a crucial consideration for a country with a vast territory and a finite defense budget. Furthermore, the economic ripple effects of selecting the Gripen E would extend into the academic and research sectors, fostering new areas of study and innovation at Canadian universities and technical colleges. The high-skilled jobs promised by the Gripen team are exactly the kind of employment that anchors a modern economy: engineers, software developers, systems integrators, and advanced manufacturing technicians. These are careers, not just jobs. As we look toward the future, the ability of Canada to assert its sovereignty will depend as much on our economic resilience as on our military strength. The decision to purchase a fighter jet is a decision about who controls our destiny. Do we wish to be a client state, forever dependent on the goodwill and production schedules of a superpower neighbor? Or do we wish to be a partner, standing on our own 2 feet with an industry that is capable, independent, and robust? The Gripen E offers a pathway to the latter. It aligns perfectly with Canada's defense policy: strong, secure, engaged, by delivering a platform that is operationally unmatched in the Arctic, financially responsible for the taxpayer, and industrially transformative for the economy. It respects the unique requirements of the Royal Canadian Air Force while simultaneously fueling the engines of Canadian commerce. In conclusion, the analysis of the data, the testimony of the pilots, and the details of the industrial proposal point to a singular conclusion: the Saab Gripen E is the North Star that Canada's defense strategy has been waiting for. It is a machine built for our climate, capable of operating from our highways, and designed to defeat our adversaries in the electronic spectrum. But more importantly, it is a program that believes in Canada. It trusts Canadian workers to build it, Canadian engineers to upgrade it, and Canadian pilots to fly it. It offers a future where we are not merely passengers in the global security architecture, but active, independent participants. For a generation of Canadians who believe in the promise of this country, the choice is clear. We have the opportunity to secure our borders and our economy in a single stroke, creating a legacy of safety and prosperity that will endure for decades. The Gripen E is not just the best jet for the RCAF, it is the best deal for Canada. If you believe securing our Arctic sovereignty and boosting Canadian aerospace is vital, please hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth defense analysis. We'd love to hear your patriotic take in the comments below. Do you think the Gripen's ability to operate from frozen highways is the game changer the RCAF needs? Does the promise of long-term made-in-Canada jobs in Halifax and Montreal weigh heavily in your decision? Would you feel safer knowing our pilots possess the electronic shield to counter stealth threats? Let's get a real conversation going. Thanks for watching, stay safe, and guard the North.